Hi, my name's John. I've had type 1 diabetes for the past 45 plus years, and I'm also an emergency medicine physician in New Hampshire. I created this video series about 5 weeks ago to talk about my experiences, hints, ideas, lessons I've learned, good and bad times, in hopes of A, entertaining, B, providing some hints, and C, increasing diabetes awareness. Please don't take anything you learn here as medical advice and make sure you speak to your provider for any major changes. Most importantly, have a good time. Like, subscribe, and share your stories because we'd love to hear them. This week is a very interesting topic to me and one that I focused on for the past 12 years, and that is a diabetic alert dog. So, diabetes is considered a handicap. It's kind of difficult because you can't see the handicap and we look just like everybody else, but oftentimes we have a lot of significant struggles with various activities in life. So, a group many years ago learned that dogs have an amazing ability to not only smell but detect changes in blood sugars in patients with diabetes. It's not clear exactly what the dogs are picking up on, although some science suggests that it's stress hormones. But regardless, they are able to alert to a significant change in blood sugar, be it a high glucose or a low glucose. So the concept of a diabetic alert dog was born. This would be a service dog approved by the Americans with Disabilities Act that would go with the patient anywhere and everywhere they went, and over time, with a tremendous amount of hard work, be trained to alert that patient or a family member to a blood sugar fluctuation. So when I learned about this, I was running my diabetes center and I had some patients that had some interest. So I thought I would give it a try. I did a lot of research and a lot of time to find a company which I thought was a reputable company. I signed up, and within about 3 to 6 months, I was called and told that my dog has been delivered, as in born, and we can look forward to it in the next few months. So they would share pictures and kind of get you excited. And the way this particular company worked is they would bring you the dog with a trainer, and that trainer would stay with you for a few days and come back every couple of months. Of course, every time they were there, they gave you homework and things to work on. And as a dog progressed, they would put him or her through the various trials and certifications necessary to be a full-fledged service dog. So in February, I was blessed to receive Banting. I had just gotten home from a trip and I met this lovely 2-month-old puppy, full of life and energy, a chocolate lab, absolutely gorgeous. If you look closely over my shoulder here, you can see Banting at a legislative meeting, and I'll be sharing some photos throughout this video, so stay tuned. I absolutely fell in love with Banting. I had always had a dog growing up, was always a big fan of the concept of having this extra level of security was very appealing. As you can imagine, my mother was very excited about this and wished that she had it when she was younger. So, as you might have guessed, these animals don't come out of the box detecting blood sugars and telling you what to do. It takes a lot of time and a lot of training. What I was taught by the trainers is the first step is to form a bond. That dog needs to absolutely cherish you, such that if something's wrong with you, the dog is agitated, the dog is annoyed. And then you capture that behavior, blood tests frequently, reward when appropriate, such that the dog learns when he's off a little bit, I'm going to act this way. When he's off in the other direction, I'm going to do this. So with Banting, we focused on a paw for a low sugar and a nose nudge for a high sugar. It's worked very well. It took a long time, almost 3 years before Banting had it down. In the meantime, there's various AKC qualifications and certifications that he needs to meet in order to be in a school and in order to really function as a service dog. So the rule of thumb was Banting is by my side 24/7. Banting has a service dog vest with the traditional service dog, please do not pet, sometimes diabetic alert dog to help increase awareness. I always had pockets full of treats, and we went anywhere and everywhere together. So if you can imagine, at this time in my life, I was running the diabetes center, so naturally Banting was very accepted there and people were very excited about him. But at the same time, I was traveling, speaking for various pharmaceutical companies all over the country. So over his time, Banting racked up quite a few miles. He did just about everything with me, from swiftwater rescue to hiking, canoeing, boating, golfing, you name it, he did it. Skiing was the one thing where I drew the line. So with the pharmaceutical talks, they fell in love with Banting. He would often have a dog bowl set up at every conference or every meeting. Sometimes they'd bring him a little bed. Sometimes he even got shrimp, and he loved shrimp. They took very good care of him and were very accepting of him. And as you can imagine, giving a talk about diabetes to a group of providers, he's a great icebreaker. And he certainly opens up the conversation for various types of therapy. So this was an adjunctive therapy. This was not the end all be all. I still wore a sensor. I still wore the pump, and I still blood tested frequently. But he was extremely helpful and many times caught me with a low or high blood sugar. I remember one particular time we were on a lake enjoying the beach and the raft and just kind of chilling, and he was on the raft with me. He sat up and he pawed my back. As you can imagine, I wasn't thrilled with this, but then I realized, oh, he's telling me something. I need to go blood test. And sure enough, my sugar was down to about 40. He's done this to me numerous times, and he's also very good with the high sugars. One particular event occurred at the Medtronic facility in Burbank, California. One of my good friends was there with me as we were both presenting. She naturally was a type 1 diabetic for many, many years, very in tune to her body and how everything worked. And Banting alerted to her. And he was just whining and wouldn't stop and kind of pawed me. And I checked my sugar. My sugar was fine. So I looked at my friend Trish. I said, "Are you okay?" Because he's having a fit. And she tested, and sure enough, her sugar had dropped. And I don't think she was a believer at first, but certainly after that moment, she was quite impressed at his ability. Because you have to remember, this is Medtronic, so they're working on the continuous glucose monitoring system. Trish did a lot of research with Medtronic and had a couple of their devices on, and Banting beat them. So it was pretty impressive and a lot of fun. Banting's been to Medtronic numerous times. Other areas we traveled with Banting include Atlanta, Georgia, Dallas, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Miami, Florida, Tampa, Florida. You name it, he's probably been there, and he loves every trip. He flies with me. People often ask, how does the plane work? So he flies with me. We go through security. I typically strip him down for security. Thankfully, he's well trained and wasn't a runner. So he'd go through the detectors and whatnot, and then get his gear back on. He would sit on the plane right at my feet. He was very good at getting all of the uh, flight attendants to fall in love with him. So he could get whatever he wanted to drink or any treats that they might have. He certainly had them wrapped around his thumb. And he was very good about flying without having to relieve himself. So at the time, the service animal relief areas were not common in airports. They were starting to pop up here and there, but they were still fairly rare. So Banting made numerous trips from Boston all the way to LA. And then when he got to LA, he would hop up into a planter and relieve himself. So he did wonderful with that. And of course, there were always accidents, which you had to take care of, but that's just part of having a dog. So we had many wonderful experiences together. And I can't stress enough how much work this is, because you really have to be religious about repeating the training over and over and over again, and having your family join with you. One of the follow-up visits, the trainer spent time with people in my office so that they understood how to work with Banting. Not so much that they would train him, but that they wouldn't cause any setbacks to occur. He spent a lot of time with my kids so they would learn how to train Banting. And again, it's just to prevent setbacks in the few instances where he was left alone with them. Banting went out to eat with us at every restaurant, was very good at sitting under the table. One of his AKC certification tests took place in a grocery store. Now, for those of you familiar with a lab, you know they like food. So the task in the grocery store was he had to walk with me and ignore everything that he might see or smell. And of course, they brought you right by the deli aisle and the frozen meat counter, which after the second try, he did fine. Other parts of the test is he has to sit and stay, lose sight of you, and then come when called, and stay relaxed and calm during it. and he did very well with that. He has to be able to interact with other people. He has to be able to bypass another dog and not get excited, not sniff, bark, or anything like that. Just simply ignore it and focus on me. So these tasks are designed to make sure that he's appropriately behaved and doing his job, which is focusing on me. He would sleep right with me. Our typical pattern was he would hop in the bed and snuggle down in between my legs. Summertime, he'd sometimes move over on his own. Sometimes he'd sleep on the wife's legs. He was happy as long as he was in bed. In fact, with all the traveling, all the hotels, nothing Banting loved more after a long flight was to test out each hotel bed and decide which one he wanted. Other experiences with Banting. Took him camping a couple of times. He absolutely loved that. Of course, he's a lab, so he loves the water. And he's a lab, so he loves food. So camping was a great time. One notable experience was Banting and I have both been on Dr. Phil together. There was an issue with the company that we got Banting from, and we went on as, I guess, like an expert witness or an experienced witness to provide our viewpoint. I don't recommend that type of activity. It's stressful for the dog and stressful for the human, but you can look it up. It's out there. Diabetic alert dogs on Dr. Phil. Banting himself was led out by Dr. Phil and did very well. He was quite the star. And of course, when we first got him, as you can see the picture behind me, he's at a meeting room. I was a legislator in Clinton County for about 6 years, and Banting served with me the entire time. As you might imagine, the other legislators, of course, fell in love with Banting and always looked forward to a visit from him whenever we had session. Trying to think what other fun stories we have had, because he's really extremely well traveled, extremely intelligent, and very, very good at his job. It's unfortunate we lost Banting this last winter. He served about 11 years as a diabetic alert dog, and I kind of retired him after that as he was getting old and blind. But it was an incredible experience. The question that always arises is, would I recommend this for patients? I had about 3 or 4 patients go forward with it. Excuse me. Some did very well with it, some did not. What I learned from it is not the answer right in the box. It does take a lot of work. With that work, it can be very successful. But if you're not willing to put in the effort, and when I say effort, it is a tremendous amount. You think having a new baby is rough? Have a new baby and have a puppy on a leash following you, healing and obeying every command 24/7. And was that wet nose I just felt? Am I having a high sugar? Well, now I have to check. I have to check and reinforce that behavior. Was that a paw? I need to check and reinforce that behavior. So, really, for a while, complicates everything, but the end result is it does simplify things if you're willing to put forth the effort. I think for parents, it's a wonderful thing. I've noticed with my experience with the trainers and with Banting that a lot of people already have this bond with their dog, and the dog will get agitated. I used to have a patient tell me a story how whenever she had a low, the dog was always lying in front of the fridge. And she didn't really notice it until we started talking, but that was the dog's method of reacting to her abnormal scent, abnormality that he recognized. So he would lie down next to the fridge. So this is something people can capture and train and work on their dog with, but it's kind of cool. If you can learn those behaviors from your dog, you can certainly use them to your benefit. I know my mother would have loved this at night because, of course, when I grew up, we didn't have a sensor. So to be able to send me to grandma's for the night and have that dog to alert, it's very helpful. I know some people have created devices to train the dog for unconscious or unresponsive. And essentially, it's a telephone dialing device that will alert various people and EMS. There's been a lot of work on not only high sugars, low sugars, but normal sugars so that the dog can almost act as a sensor. Again, these are wonderful ideas, and the animals are unbelievably talented, but it is a lot of work. So I'm gonna hopefully I've gotten all these pictures to load up, and you've seen them throughout this little video. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Like I said, we lost Banting last November. I cherish him. I miss him every day. He was a wonderful animal. If you have the time, the dedication, and the work ethic, I highly recommend the Diabetic Alert Dog. Certainly something to research and learn more about. And as always, please like, subscribe, share comments if you have experience with a diabetic alert dog or your own dog. I'd love to hear it. Please share those comments, and I'd be open for further discussion. But most importantly, have a great day and stay healthy.